Hello, I'm Laura Armstrong. I'm a volunteer at the Minnesota Marine Art Museum, and today I'm going to take you on a little trip. We're going to go to the beach together. It's a really fun thing to do whenever the weather is warm, whether we go to visit the Mississippi River, the ocean, or a lake. Everybody has things that we think of that we might want to bring along when we go to the beach. So I want you to pause the film for a minute, and with the people you're watching with, talk for a minute about what you think you would bring with you if you went to the beach. Did you make a big list? I'll bet you came up with a lot of things, like maybe a snack in case you get hungry, definitely some water. You might have thought of something like a big beach towel. You might have thought of something like a beach umbrella to give you shade from the sun. Something like a pail and a little shovel for digging and maybe making something out of the sand. You might have decided you would bring along some toys. Some people like to bring an inflatable beach ball to throw and kick and play with in the water, or some floaties to help you swim. But I want you to remember those things, because in a minute we're going to look at a painting and we're going to see if any of those things are there. Now I want you to pause the film again and think about what you might wear to go to the beach. So take just a minute and think about what you would put on to go to the beach. And I'll bet you thought of some things like a swimsuit, because you might get wet from swimming. Maybe some goggles if you want to be able to swim underwater and see what's under there. Maybe some sunglasses if the sun is really bright. I always wear a hat so that I don't get sunburned quite as fast. You might wear shorts. You might wear some sandals on your feet, or maybe just go barefoot. You might decide to bring a jacket in case it gets chilly by the ocean or along the river, or later on in the day if it gets cool. All right, so we made a list of things we might bring, and then we made a list of things we might wear. And now I'm going to share with you a painting that's actually called On the Beach. It was painted by a man named Julius LeBlanc Stewart in 1880. And if you look at this painting, you might see some of the same things you listed that you would bring and wear, and also some different things. So if you start on the right-hand side of the painting, you're gonna see first a woman in a blue dress. She's got her back to us, and she's not wearing shorts, is she? She's wearing a long dress that covers all of her arms and all of her legs, and it looks like it might be really hot to wear. And she's got her back to us, but her arm is stretched out, and she's got a bonnet. It's a kind of a fancy hat. Next to her, there's a woman in a pink dress, and she's also wearing a fancy hat, and it's hard to see her face because the hat has a veil. Now, I don't think any of you said you would bring a hat with a veil to the beach. In her hands, she's holding an embroidery frame, so she's doing some really fancy sewing on the beach. Did any of you say, when you made a list of things to bring to the beach, that you would bring along your embroidery or your mending? At her feet, you can see a basket, and that's full of like her yarn and her thread and all of that kind of stuff. Did any of you include that on your list? Next to her is a woman who's got a book in her lap. I always bring a book when I go to the beach because I love to read, and maybe some of you had that item on your list, but you'll also notice that all of these people so far, except the woman on the beach, are sitting in chairs. Did any of you say that you would bring a chair to the beach? Maybe a beach chair. But these people are sitting in wooden chairs like you might have in your house. One woman has a parasol, and it's over her head, and I think a lot of people would probably bring that to the beach. Next to her is a man wearing a hat, and a lot of people think that this man is actually the painter himself, Julius Stewart, because he often liked to include himself in his paintings. He liked to paint people he knew, his friends and his family, and then he would also include himself. So that man with the little hat might be him. Next to him is a woman who has long black gloves. Did any of you make a list that included long black gloves? There's also a woman who's lying on the beach facing us, and she's holding a fan. A fan is actually a really smart thing to have at the beach to help you cool off. And next to her is a woman with a shawl, and that seems like a hot thing to wear too, but aren't all of the people in this painting wearing clothes that to us look hot for the beach? Let's talk about this for a minute, because I don't see any swimsuits or shorts or any of those things that we might have thought of if we go to the beach. And that's because this painting was made in 1880, and in that time, people did not wear swimsuits if they went to the beach. They went to the beach to get the sea air, which they believed was healthy for them, and to look at the beautiful view. But they didn't go swimming the same way we do, and they definitely did not wear clothes that revealed a lot of their skin. So the clothes that they were wearing were appropriate for the time they lived in. That's why they're so covered up. Next to the woman who has the shawl, there's a man who has a shovel, and that might be on your list. He certainly could use that shovel to dig in the sand, and next to him on the left are two little girls. One of the little girls is actually barefoot. She's the only person in the painting who's not wearing shoes, and she has a little pail, and she also has a little rake. So those two little girls, even though they're not wearing swimsuits, do look like they might be doing what we would do if we go to the beach, maybe digging, maybe even making a sandcastle later. That's 10 different people who are all in this painting, all sitting there enjoying being on the beach. And there's one other character in that painting that we haven't talked about, and that's the dog. All the way on the left is a little dog, and he's my favorite part of that painting. He looks like he would really appreciate it if someone would play with him. So I've picked a story to go with this painting that is about a dog who goes to the beach with his family. And that book is called Harry by the Sea. It was written by Jean Zion, and the pictures were made by Margaret Bloy Graham. And I want you to notice this big beach umbrella. There's a beach umbrella in the Stewart painting, and also this plays an important role in the story. So pay attention to the beach umbrella. Let's go. Harry by the Sea. Here goes the family. They're on their way to the sea. And there's Harry. Harry was a white dog with black spots who liked everything about the seashore except the hot sun. One day when the sun was hotter than ever, Harry looked for a shady place to sit. But when he tried to get under the family's beach umbrella, it was too crowded, and the family made him leave. When he crawled into the children's sandcastle, the walls fell in and the children chased him away. When he walked in the shade that a lady made while she was walking, she became angry and made him stop following her. "Get lost," she said. She was very annoyed. The sun was very hot, and Harry had walked a long way from the main beach. He was tired, so he sat down at the water's edge. All of a sudden, a big wave came from behind and crashed right on top of him. When the wave rolled back, Harry was left floating in the water. He was completely covered with seaweed. He didn't look like a dog anymore. He looked like something from the bottom of the sea. Suddenly, a lady saw him floating toward her. "Help! Help!" she shrieked. "It's a sea monster!" The lifeguard heard her and blew his whistle. "Everybody out!" he shouted. "Everybody out!" Everyone ran out of the water, and so did Harry. He was still covered with cold, wet seaweed. It made him feel cool and comfortable, and now he didn't mind the sun at all. He felt so good, he started running back to his family. On his way, some people saw him. "Oh, it's a sea serpent!" one of them screamed. "It's a giant sandworm!" shrieked another. Harry had water in his ears and could hardly hear them. He kept on running toward the main beach. When he got there, Harry stopped and stared. What does he see? Oh no! Instead of just his family's umbrella, now there were hundreds of them. They were all striped, just like his family's. Harry couldn't tell one umbrella from another. Suddenly, 2 beach attendants saw him. "Holy smoke!" one of them gasped. "What's that?" "It's a bushy-backed sea slug!" exclaimed the other. They whispered for a moment, then they ran. Harry went from umbrella to umbrella, but he couldn't find his family. Everyone wore sun hats and sunglasses, and everyone used suntan oil, just like his family. Harry looked and sniffed very hard, but it was no use. He couldn't tell one family from another. Suddenly, the 2 beach attendants came running back, carrying a big trash basket. They ran toward Harry. "Stand back," one of them said to the crowd. "We're going to catch it and take it to the aquarium," said the other. Then they tiptoed right up behind Harry and raised the trash basket over his head. Harry didn't know the beach attendants were behind him. He was listening to something. He thought he heard someone calling his name. There it was again. "Harry, Harry, Harry!" Now Harry was sure. He didn't wait another second. Just as the basket came down, he ran. He ran right out from under the basket. It happened so fast the beach attendants just stood there with their mouths open. As he raced through the crowd, some people screamed, some people ran, and some people did both. But Harry paid no attention. He kept on running across the beach. When he got to the hot dog stand, he stopped and barked happily. Behind the counter, the hot dog man was shouting. It was his voice that Harry had heard, but Harry had water in his ears and couldn't hear very well. The man wasn't shouting, "Harry, Harry, Harry!" He was shouting, "Hurry, hurry, hurry, get 'em while they're hot!" Harry still thought the man was calling his name. He barked and jumped with joy. He jumped so much that suddenly the seaweed all fell off. When the crowd saw that Harry was a dog, they gasped. They could hardly believe their eyes. All at once, Harry began to jump higher than ever. He saw the children. They were running toward him. "Oh, Harry," they cried, "we heard you bark. We've been looking all over for you." Harry was so happy, he did a little dance. The hot dog man was very grateful to Harry for bringing the crowd to his stand. He sold all the hot dogs he had. He gave Harry a free hamburger. The lady who had told Harry to get lost came along and bought him a cold drink. "You're no sea monster," she said. "You're just a lost hot dog." Everyone laughed except the 2 children. "He's not lost," one of them said. "He's Harry and he's ours." Then they hurried off to join the rest of the family. The next time Harry's family went to the beach, they bought a new umbrella. Harry liked this one very much. It was white with black spots. No matter how crowded the beach became, it was easy to find. But best of all, it was big. And when the sun got very hot, there was room underneath for them all. Thanks for sharing that story with me. I really like the way at the end there's a new beach umbrella and it looks a lot like Harry, and there's room for everybody. So the next time you go to the beach, you might think about what the people in the painting On the Beach by Julius LeBlanc Stewart had and compare it with what you have. And I hope you'll also enjoy coming to the Minnesota Marine Art Museum to see the painting in the American Gallery. See you next time.